they made the bugles ring. We stood beside our cotton bales and didn't say a thing. We fired our guns and the British...
In the last 2 weeks,
as many as there was a while ago.
really the last 7 days, 2 different films have been released. One, an ABC special called 2100, another called Home. And I've now watched most of both of them. It was pure torture. And I could do 10 hours on these people, breaking down all the facets, going over everything they did. It is absolutely mind-blowing to see the eugenics they're pushing and the things they're saying and the things they're doing. Just absolutely mind-blowing. This is how the psychology works. In these TV shows, in these movies, they basically say you're going to be paying $9 a gallon of milk, or for half gallon of milk, because the earth is dying. They say humans, because there's too many humans, that's why you're not going to do well resource-wise. So they're setting up a classic resource war between humans and humans, with the state moderating this ultimate divide and conquer, and then only the carbon credits and only eugenics and only population control can save us. And that's what's all over the news. As, you know, world leaders meet to push for population reduction. And world leaders push for tax on cars and all airline travel and a tax on oil at the wellhead, going to the private banks. It's not enough for the banks to have the governments give them tens of trillions of dollars and bankrupt everything. Now they want to have you pay taxes directly to them. How did we know this decades ago? Bilderberg Group's own minutes say that. Now it's been announced all over the news. Now the yuppies can't deny this. But see, the yuppies feel like they're part of the establishment. They think they're David Rockefeller because they make $100,000 a year. They're complete idiots. We've got to explain to them through self-preservation. They've got to wake up and realize they're not part of the establishment. Same thing with mainline right-wing people, mainline leftists, that they're all drinking different flavors of Kool-Aid. One's orange, one's grape, one's lemon, one's cherry, but it's all political, controlled, limited paradigms that come out of the same Kool-Aid factory. It's the same crap, sugar and a different flavored dye. That's the only difference. It's still from Kool-Aid, ladies and gentlemen. And they are drinking the Kool-Aid. And I've got these articles. Levy on international air travel could fund climate change flight. Idea put forward by 50 least developed countries. So they pose it like, oh, the poor people want this. Those are third world nations controlled by the IMF and World Bank in hock to them to infinity. Think twice about green transport, say scientists. Yeah, this is out of AP. It says, you worry a lot about environment and do everything you can to reduce your carbon footprint, the emissions of greenhouse gases that drive dangerous climate change. See how they make it sound like it's real? Oh, it's real. See, it's just a stated fact now. But then it tells you that some of the climate change fixes aren't right. See, that makes it sound credible. It's criticizing the current climate change fixes, but admitting that overall climate change is man-made and we've got to do it, and that carbon dioxide, the life-giving gas, is evil. So you always prefer to take the train or the bus rather than plane and avoid using a car whenever you can, faithful to the belief that this inflicts less harm on the planet. See, reinforcing the lie that cars are bad. Well, there could be a nasty surprise in store for you. For taking public transport may not be as green as you automatically think, says a new U.S. study. Yet authors point out that an array of factors are often unknown to the public. These are hidden or displaced emissions that ramp up the simple tailpipe tally, which is based on how the carbon is spewed out and the fossil fuels that make the trip. And they go through the bureaucracy and the system and how trains and buses actually have bigger carbon footprints, which I say good. I'm actually now for trains and buses because plants breathe carbon dioxide and put out higher levels of oxygen. That increases plankton blooms, which increase krill, which increase the smaller feeder fish, which increase the first level of predator fish right down to the blue whale, right down to the sperm whale. In the food chain, they've done the ice core samples. The Earth has had upwards of 14 times higher oxygen and carbon dioxide. We are oxygen and carbon dioxide poor right now. We're in a red level emergency. We need more carbon dioxide, ladies and gentlemen. And you can look at the different maxims in the last 20,000 years with ice cores. Every time there's a peak, you see human development explode. We need hotter weather. It's better for life around the globe. Ice ages are bad for the overall life mass on Earth, and life isn't a drag on life. Life actually creates more complex biodiversity and generates more life on top of it. But they're selling you that life always negatively affects other life, teaching you it's a zero-sum game instead of a three-dimensional pie that is always growing. And then if you can think about that three-dimensional pie in your mind, that takes you to the fourth dimension, the true fourth dimension. Environmental engineers, Mikhail Chester and Aparad Horvath, let's get them on, and a University of California, Davis, say that when the costs are included, a more complex and challenging picture emerges. And that's that a train uses more per person than an SUV. You can go read that if you want. But the environmentalists don't care. They want your house and your car. The local environmentalists, most of them know it's a scam, the mid-level ones. They want a job enforcing. They get off on coming on your property. They get off on poking you. They get off and love guys with ponytails and SWAT gear with their little guns, running around harassing farmers and ranchers. They're parasite, filth, degenerate control freaks. I've run into them. And then they got the stupid roid heads that back them up, with their machine guns and their bureaucracy with the animal ID and the premises ID and all of these systems. And they are creating giant bureaucracies to track and trace and categorize and chronicle everything you do. I said that years ago. Now the White House and now Nancy Pelosi admit that in speeches. Everything you do is going to be tracked. Schwarzenegger's called for a new sales tax on top of the income tax. I told you, they're not going to get rid of one tax and get a new one. They're going to give you more taxes. Stuff Neil Bortz pushes. He's paid to do that, by the way. Anyways, all of this is going on. Here it is. Schwarzenegger suggests state consider a flat tax. So it just goes on and on. This is the system. Now, as the economy gets worse, as the inflation of the bankers comes on, at first the money's still worth something. They buy real assets, then pass the inflation back to us as a way to then pay them back in inflated currency, which is gathering interest, so they win into the future model. See how this fraud model works? They make money on going up with the bubble, and they make even more and get more power when it pops. And then as things inflate after the popping, first a depression in the economy, then an inflation with a steel having a Main Street depression. Hyper-stag inflation I've coined now being picked up by Tarpley and others. I appreciate that. Now, the yuppies and the college kids and the high school kids, they're going to wonder why milk a few years down the road is going to be $9 for a half gallon. They're going to wonder why everything's going to cost more. They're going to wonder why they're bankrupt, why they have no future. Well, they've got TV shows, 2 of them in the last week, and George Soros and others funded one of them. In fact, I'm going to play those trailers in a moment. I got my producer coming in to give me something. What's going on? I'm going to push him back to the next segment. Okay, thank you. Let me try to focus. This is key here. Okay, let me gather my thoughts again. It's the same trick. I talk about this trick a lot because it's one of their favorite tricks on thousands of issues. They will put up billboards saying firearms are illegal, saying report illegal guns, showing a picture of a revolver. Doesn't matter if you're in Tennessee or Texas or Alabama or Oregon where there's not all these gun laws, your neighbors will call the cops on you. Happens every day. I see it in the news where somebody puts their deer rifle in their car, SWAT team pulls them over 5 minutes later, beats the hell out of them because the citizen saw the gun, and the citizen will say, I saw him waving the gun around. Everything's about false reports. Everything's about bull. It's the same thing with perception. Just like they make people perceive revolvers are illegal when they're not, by having it in dramas and TV shows and billboards that it is, they're going after the idiot mass. That's why they want to dumb everybody down, so they have all these easy to dumb down and control, manipulate people. It's the same trick with running all these TV shows that say, you want to know why milk's going to cost $7, $8, $9 a gallon? You want to know why you're going to lose your job and have no future? You want to know why there's going to be rioting? You want to know? It's because there's too many people and global warming caused it. You want to know why there's malaria? Global warming. You want to know why suddenly we have drug-resistant tuberculosis and trichinosis worms infecting people in the U.S.? Global warming. It's not all the illegal aliens, 30 million of them flooding all over us and, no testing. So they basically say, if you have a headache, global warming did it. If you stub your toe, global warming did it. If you have a fight with your wife, global warming did it. And the public's like, oh my God, because they know rioting's coming, $9 a half gallon milk's coming. They know all of this is coming, and so they advertise in all these things, and they show tornadoes. If a tornado hits Texas, or Oklahoma, which they hit thousands of times a year. Always happened, going back in history books 300 years. People first were in Texas